Good evening. University students across the UK have been speaking of their fears and frustrations after being forced into lockdown. 1,700 students in Manchester have been told to self-isolate in their rooms on campus for 14 days after 127 of them contracted coronavirus. In Scotland, meanwhile, thousands of students have been told not to go to pubs or parties this weekend after hundreds tested positive for the virus at universities across the country. Our education correspondent Dan Johnson reports from Manchester.
Locked down, isolated and feeling imprisoned. Hardly the fun and freedom of student life expected by Nadia and her flatmates.
Hiya! How's it going?
I live like 4.5 hours away. If they knew this was going to happen, what was the point of making us all come here if we're going to do online lessons? Like, we've barely got any milk and bread to last us till Monday. We can't do our washing. I mean, it's a bit pathetic.
Ben's flat of eight's been cut off for a week already after one of the first cases here.
3 more days left and then we were going to be out and being able to leave, and then they've just announced that we're going to have to stay here for a couple more weeks.
But health officials say they had to move quickly to keep this under control.
We've been really concerned about the rising number of positive cases over the last few days. It went from a very small outbreak to over 120 cases, as you've identified, and we knew it was time to take swift action just to limit the spread amongst the student population, but also the spread in our local communities in Manchester, where there are more vulnerable people.
This morning, worried parents were running resupply missions.
She hates it. I mean, she loves the uni, but the isolation bit really upsetting her, especially when it's her youngest daughter and it's just moved away from home, like, yeah. It's worrying, ain't it?
John's daughter, Chloe, started criminology here last week.
She was supposed to be coming home for the weekend, long weekend, and we travelled up last night and we got here and she says we've been put in isolation for 2 weeks, so she can't come home, and we've just bought her a few essentials.
And there are concerns about the impact on students' well-being and teaching.
Perhaps the universities should consider a discount to the student where their learning is interrupted and they're not having significant face-to-face learning with lecturers or tutors.
Glasgow University said after an outbreak there put halls of residence in lockdown, it will refund a month's rent. It also promised food parcels, clean bedding and a way to wash clothes.
It's only really been today we've kind of been given information about how the uni are going to help and like what they're going to do about it. So, I mean, we don't really know so far, but it's looking a little bit more positive that they're going to help us.
These Manchester students are starting their second night of 2 weeks in isolation, and they're unlikely to be the last because the scientists did warn that students were likely to bring coronavirus to campus with them, perhaps unknowingly, and universities are likely to see other significant outbreaks. They say they have plans to respond so the virus doesn't spread and communities are protected. Young people may be at lower risk of getting ill themselves. They still face disruption to their learning and their social lives. Dan Johnson, BBC News, Manchester.